Sierra Leone is a country on the west coast of Africa. A small little country with a lot of resources. It had lots of diamonds there, and rutile with which you make spacecraft, gold, silver, all sorts of things. Yet it was the poorest country on earth. Rice, of course, yes, it's a staple food, and they had nothing with them. They grew nothing. They had a railway which was defunct. They had roads which are defunct. They had one TV station, and they had really nothing with them.
Why was there strife in Sierra Leone? Civil war or strife or whatever was happening there, what caused it, sir?
So it started as a student rebellion, like anywhere else. The future of the country is in your hands. They meant votes. The RUF picked on this and said, all right, they catch hold of people and say, tell me, the future is in your hands, so do you want long sleeves? Do you want short sleeves? Or do you want sleeveless? I will have long sleeves. So they'll chop off the hand. And if you said short sleeve, they'd chop you off at the elbow. And if you said sleeveless, they'd chop you off from the shoulder. I saw so many people with the limbs chopped off, including children, 4 years old, 5 years old kids, with arms chopped off. They won't even know that they had 2 arms to start with.
Tell us something about Khukri, sir. How did it pan out and what happened? Hello friends, welcome to GAP, the Gaurav Arya Podcast. I have with me today Lieutenant General Vijay Kumar Jetley, and he is the former UN Force Commander in Sierra Leone. Sir, Jai Hind and a very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you.
What is it about Sierra Leone, sir, that made you write this book, The Unforgettable Saga of Sierra Leone? You wrote this, and I'm going to put the link in the description, sir. People who want to buy the book can buy this book. But what does this book talk about? I have not read this book, sir. But I just like to ask you what this book is about and your experiences.
Yeah, it was my experience. I was the turn of the century.
Sir.
I was appointed as the force commander, sir, of a force known as UNAMSIL. This stands for UN Mission in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is a country on the west coast of Africa.
Sir.
Small little country. It's just about 72,000 square kilometers. It's 333 kilometers north to south and 328 east to west. So you can imagine it's circular in shape.
Sure.
A small little country with a lot of resources. It had lots of diamonds there, and rutile with which you make spacecraft, gold, silver, all sorts of things. Yet it was the poorest country on earth, and they didn't have any resources of their own to feed themselves also. But this country, because of its diamond wealth and the other wealth, was in the eye of the storm for a long time, and a lot of people wanting to come there.
Sure.
There are a lot of rebel groups which grew up, and those rebel groups wanted to vie for power and fight against the legally constituted government. So this was carrying on for almost a decade. And a number of coups took place, a number of agreements happened between various elements, but nothing came to light which brought peace to that country. Finally, it was decided to get the rebels of the Revolutionary United Front, their leader and the leader of the government, which was then in power, followed by the name of Kaaba, to come for an agreement at a place called Lome. Now, this agreement was not just between the two of them. It was brokered by UN, by the Nigerians who were very much interested, the big brothers of West Africa,
sure,
by the British, who were the erstwhile colonial powers. So they managed to get these people in July 99, 7 July, if I remember correctly, 99, to an agreement which they called the Lome Peace Agreement. What was this agreement? In a nutshell, the agreement was what? It was the rebels and the government in power would form another government of national unity, as they called it. And with 28 or 29, almost 30% of the ministerial berths going to the rebels.
Sure.
Now, this was on the face of it, on the surface, it looked like a very good idea. But in actual fact, it had a lot of drawbacks in the sense that the Revolutionary United Front was just one of the 5 rebel groups operating in Sierra Leone. Now, the other 4, they felt slighted because they said, why not us?
They were ignored, sir?
They were ignored. And they were not very happy about it. Who would be? And so there were a lot of trouble and strife. But not only were the other groups unhappy, people in the RUF itself, as they call themselves, they were also themselves very, very apprehensive about what the leader had done. Why? Because they were used to power. Unlimited power, unlimited resources. They had diamonds galore. They could buy anything they wanted.
Sure.
Weapons, rocket launchers, you name it, vehicles, they had everything except helicopters.
Sure.
They had everything with them. And of course, they had their own rules for governing their part of the country. In actual fact, when this Lomé agreement was signed, there was a force which was brought in over there from Liberia. And this force was brought in there by the Economic Community of West African States. It was known as ECOWAS.
All right, sir.
And the force was created by the ECOWAS, known as the Economic Community Military Observers Group, ECOMOG. Now, this ECOMOG was functioning in Liberia,
Sir.
where also there had been a similar problem, and where a lot of rebel groups were vying for power. And finally, a person by the name, the most brutal of them, fellow by the name of Charles Taylor, he was made the president. He made himself the president. Some people say with the help of the ECOMOG, but these are rumors. No, I can't substantiate them. But since some sort of peace had been brought about in Liberia, it was decided by the ECOWAS, with the help of all those other people brokering it, that we will move ECOMOG into Sierra Leone. And they will do all the peacekeeping over there.
So may I interrupt you here, sir?
Yeah.
My question is, why was there strife in Sierra Leone?
Okay.
So, yes, there was strife, and yes, there was United Nations, intervention, and you had UN troops there, and you commanded it. But what was the genesis of that, if I may call it, civil war or strife or whatever was happening there? What caused it, sir?
Yeah, what really caused it is that, the inequality between the people who are in power and most of the other people who were, in the widespread country of theirs, far away from habitation, whereas all the wealth of that country was in the interiors. The people who were benefiting from it were the people in power, the government in power, which was not liked by most people. So it started as a student rebellion, like anywhere else.
Sure.
And it had the support of the people also, because they were also, the general public was quite fed up with the government in power. So it took birth, like any counterinsurgency and insurgency movement took birth. But finally what happened, it degenerated into a free-for-all, and with the brutal execution of their plan by the rebels, killing, murdering, doing all sorts of things, Just to give you an example, the government of the day decided that the future of the country is in your hands. They meant votes. And the RUF picked on this and said, all right, they catch hold of people and say, tell me, the future is in your hands. So do you want long sleeves, or do you want short sleeves, or do you want sleeveless? No, to a casual observer, you wouldn't know what is he talking about. What they were talking about, if you said, I will have long sleeves, so they'll chop off the hand. And if you said short sleeve, they'd chop you off at the elbow. And if you said sleeveless, they'd chop you off from the shoulder. I saw so many people with the limbs chopped off, including children, 4 years old, 5 years old kids, with arms chopped off. They won't even know that they had 2 arms to start with. So it was a very painful process. People finally did get fed up of all these people, and they wanted peace. So that is the reason behind all this, that let's get to some place where we can have a civilized life which is not full of strife the way it is right now.
Sure.
So that is why this Lomé peace agreement was brokered, and the hope was that we'll do something known as a DDR. This is a process, a UN process, DDR, demobilization, demilitarization, and reintegration. That means we ask you to voluntarily give your weapon to us, then we'll demobilize you. We'll train you to reintegrate into the mainstream, into the society. What is the reintegration? You want to be a TV mechanic? We'll teach you how to do it. So you have a vocation in life and you earn a decent living, and so on. It's a very laudable, But it needed money, which had to come from World Bank and other big organizations, and most of it did not come when it should have come. So while we could do DD portion of it, but we couldn't do the R properly, the reintegration. So some of them went back again disappointed. So what happened really then, once this Lome agreement was signed, at that point in time, this ECOMOG force had 15 battalions in it, of which 13 battalions were from Nigeria, 1 was from Ghana, and some 500 people were from Guinea. Now, if you look at the map of Sierra Leone, you'll see that Guinea is a country which is to the north and slightly to the east of it, of Sierra Leone. Then there is Liberia, which is got a common border with Sierra Leone and with Guinea, and that is to the western part of it. And then you have the Atlantic Ocean, right? So these two nations were immediate neighbors who influenced things inside Sierra Leone. But more than that were the Nigerians, who were the big brothers of West Asia. They had... what did people want from Sierra Leone, a poor country? They even imported things like salt. You won't believe it. Rice, of course, yes, it's a staple food, and they had nothing with them. They grew nothing. They had a railway which was defunct. They had roads which are defunct. They had one TV station, and they had really nothing with them, other than those natural resources, diamonds, gold, rutile, and all that, which is what everybody coveted. So you had any number of nations sending their mercenary groups over there, like Executive Outcomes, EO, from South Africa, Sandline from Britain, and so on and so forth. They came in the disguise of, we'll help you bring peace in your country.
Sure.
But in actual fact, they were after the diamonds.
Yes.
I mean, nobody does anything for nothing.
Yes, sir.
Nothing comes from nothing, and nothing ever should.
Sure.
So, but this doesn't help the Sierra Leoneans at all. Then finally they decided, let's have an agreement. So this agreement came in. But it came with a little problem. And the problem was what? The Nigerian heavy ECOMOG force, they thought that like it was done in Kosovo, the NATO was made into a UN force.
Sure.
They thought we'll also get blue berets, we'll get a UN force, and expenditure will be picked up by the UN.
Sure.
They would have been happy with that, but it didn't happen.
Sure.
The UN did not pick up the tab. They said, sorry, we'll keep you there, but you're supposed to do all this. You're supposed to supervise the DDR. It didn't go down well with the Nigerians because they're a poor country, despite being oil rich, a very poor country.
Sure.
So we decided we are going to pull out even before the ink had dried on the Lome agreement. They decided to pull out.
Sure.
Now this left the UN in a great quandary. What to do, and that is the time it was decided that we'll raise the UN force and call it UNAMSIL. And this UNAMSIL would then work with, in conjunction with whatever is left of the ECOMOG force, right? And the UNAMSIL forces, of which I was made the commander,
Sure.
It was decided, normally what happens when you have a UN peacekeeping mission, you give responsibility to a particular nation to sort of head it. Normally, a peacekeeping mission is headed by a civilian who's designated as SRSG, Special Representative of the Secretary General.
Sure.
And then there's the force commander who is the head of the military, which is what I was.
Sure.
So I was given a force of 6 battalions. Now, of these, 2 were Nigerian, who were part of ECOMOG. 2 were, one was from Ghana,
Sure.
part of ECOMOG, and 1 was from Guinea, part of ECOMOG. So 4 of these battalions, the 2/3 of my force, was the people who were already over there. They were under-equipped. They were tired.
Discipline, sir?
See, soldiers all over the world, you've been one yourself, they are good. It's the leadership which makes the difference.
Absolutely, sir.
So the leadership of many of theirs was very, very slack. Secondly, there was another problem, it's command and control. You gave an order to someone and you expected him to obey it. But that order would get passed down through their contingent seniors to their countries of origin and asked whether we should do this or not do this. Right? which was a great problem for the force commander, because you're giving an operational order, a well-planned operational order. In fact, because of the Indian Army training the way it is, we are very well-trained troops, frankly.
Yes, sir.
When we do something, and most of my staff officers were all staff college qualified.
Sir.
So they churned out proper operational orders with operational logistic orders. They churned them all out without leaving an iota of doubt. But it's a question of following it. Now, if you don't follow it, it's a big problem. But it's not the soldier who doesn't follow it. It is the soldiers' leaders who vacillate as to whether we should do it or not, which is the problem, which I brought to the notice of the UN.
Yes, sir.
But the point is that since these fellows were pulling out, UNAMSIL came into being, and I was given 4 battalions of ECOMOG, very badly staffed. Most of the equipment came from an American company known as PAE, Pacific Architects and Engineers.
Sure.
They were giving the logistic support to the UNIMOG, to ECOMOG.
Sure.
But when they became part of UNAMSIL, these 4 battalions, they withdrew all the support. So now these chaps were there without anything. They didn't have vehicles. They didn't have radio sets with them.
Sure.
They didn't even have things like a water bowser or, something like that. They had nothing with them, which was very sad for them, actually.
Sure.
And if you tell them to do a road opening, but how do you do it when you don't have a vehicle of your own? So they didn't have the capability. Fortunately, I had a battalion from Kenya, which was very well equipped. And of course, I had a battalion from India, 5 Gorkhas, with mechanized troops. And we also were asked to provide an artillery battery, an engineer company, a guard and administration company, and an air element consisting of Me-8s and Alouettes, cheetahs.
So one thing, sir.
Yeah.
Did at any point in time,
Yes.
maybe out of a sense of frustration, because you're not used to that scenario, sir.
Right.
We are used to a certain scenario in India where if the senior officer gives an order,
Yes.
those orders are followed and there are no exceptions. It is done.
Yes.
It's like there is no thinking about it.
Yes.
Because we understand, we have that belief and that faith that he must have thought about it and it's all well thought of.
Yes.
And what I need to do is do my part well.
Right.
The question here is, sir, at any point in time, was there a deep desire to go to the boss of the United Nations and say, sir, I'll do the job, give me Indian troops because I can't handle this?
Yes. Okay, let me give you an answer to this. I did have a problem. The capital, Freetown, is connected to the only international airport, a place called Lungi,
Sir.
by a long circuitous route over 150 kilometers, Most of it is dominated by various rebel groups,
Sir.
right? It was difficult for any person to operate over there properly. And this fell in the area of responsibility of the Nigerians. There was a Nigerian sector over there, part of my force, but they did nothing about it. And despite operational orders being passed to them, despite any number of conferences and any number of things, nothing was happened. They did do nothing about it. It was quite frustrating. I went to the SRSG, and we are trained well in the Indian Army. I'm a 4th generation officer.
Sure.
I know how Indian Army and how an army works. So my boss is that civilian. So I go to him and explain to him that this is a problem and that you should intervene. It just so happened that he happened to be a Nigerian also. It just so happened that my deputy was a brigadier from Nigeria. It just so happened that the sector commander of that sector was a Nigerian. It just so happened that 2 battalion Nigerians over there, they just wouldn't move. So despite the fact that operational orders were issued, any number of them, so finally, it's normally not my way of doing things. So I put this up to the Department of Peacekeeping Operations.
Oh.
And I sent them a 56-page fax. They were good old days, in turn of the century, we didn't have modern facilities. So 56-page fax went to them and said that this is the problem, a command and control, and you might like to do something about it. Unfortunately, Gaurav, they did nothing. Unfortunately, what they did was very diplomatic. Sent back a message, this is the problem, what do you all feel about it, and so on and so forth. In the meanwhile, because we had been attacked, and which I have not come to as yet, we had been attacked and we had additional troops. A battalion had come in from India. and 18 Grenadiers, the PVC battalion.
Ah, sir.
They had just come from Kargil.
Sir.
And they had been sent over there. And I called the CO, Brigadier Kushal, retired as a brigadier. I called him. I said, Kushal, I got a job for you. What is it, sir? So I explained the job to him. And he said, I want that area called Rockberry opened up. This is where the rebels are holed up. Send your second in command. It's a job for just 2 companies to do this. No, sir, I'll do it myself. So I gave him a couple of helicopters.
That's also a very typical answer.
Yeah, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, that's a very typical Indian Army
Absolutely.
answer.
He said, no, sir, you leave it to me. And I said, what resources do you want? He said, sir, I got my battalion. I said, give me the artillery. I said, fine, you can make infantry and you take that company of ours, which is based on APCs. You take that with you. Fine, sir. So I said, I got no helicopter gunships to give you, but I'll give you a helicopter. So what you do is you convert it into a gunship. So he passed orders to his second in command. The helicopter's coming, put sandbags into it, put medium machine guns, take out the tailboard. So you got chap firing at the back, 2 on the side. So we got our own improvised gunship. Although there was a gunship in Sierra Leone, belonged to Sierra Leone, but they never gave it to us. Sure. It was used by the British later on, for something or the other. So this fellow went off, did a recce, was shot at, and came back unhurt. And next day they did an operation. And by 4 o'clock, they had captured that place. So he sent a message, so I captured it. I said, okay, now dig down. And Indian Army style, dig down, be careful. There'll be counterattacks at night. He said, no problem, sir. And you won't believe it, Gaurav, he got his battalion so beautifully sighted despite tall grass and things like that. All his automatic weapons were very well sighted. And he made a beautiful underground bunker. So next morning I flew in there and I took with me the sector commander who was with me in the capital, a Jordanian brigadier. And I also called the Nigerian brigadier. Sure. I said, it was your job to do it, but you come and see how it's done. So yes, I called that guy. He came by road. He had 10 vehicles in front of him, 10 behind him. I don't know why he was so apprehensive. But he came in vehicle. But this Jordanian brigadier was with me. He later became quite a big shot in Jordan. We landed there at that place, Rockberry, and CO received us, and we saw Nigerians being trained by the Indians in motor platoon and so on and so forth. I said, very good camaraderie between the troops, very nice. So we went and CO took us to his bunker. So I saw that brigadier looking around. We have gone underground. We got something on top of us. There's a big, huge map there, and arrow and so on, enlargement, everything is there. So now this whole looks around after the briefing. He says, sir, can I ask the CO question? I said, go right ahead. What is it? He says, when did you come here? He said, I came 4 o'clock yesterday, sir. When did you dig this? He said, last night. You made this last night, including charts, maps, everything. He says, yes. We do it in Indian Army. He was flabbergasted. He said, sir, can I call my Jordanian troops to come and see what they have done? I said, you're most welcome. Go and do it. And I called the Nigerian also. I said, you take a look. And I said, you're going to take over now. He sighted at night, and those people tried to attack at night. He sighted at night, but you may want to make some changes, so you better take over this from this gentleman, because it's your area of responsibility. So you asked me this question of command and control. Sure. It was disappointing to see the command and control so lax, where you're looking over their shoulders to ask people back home, should we do this or should we not do this, and so on and so forth. And also it was a little irksome to be sandwiched between a civilian head of the mission, Nigerian, brigadier, my deputy Nigerian, and others. It was a little, should I say, difficult to function in that environment. So much so that this fellow, the SRRG, was wanting me to send a joint patrol to the Lome, to such and such area, which is the Diamond Belt area. Sure. So I said, yeah, we'll send some patrols from Kenya, we'll send some patrol from Ghana, we'll send from India. No, you have a joint patrol, you do this, you do that. I said, look, I'm a major general. I commanded a brigade, I commanded a division. You're talking to me about patrols. I know what to do. Please leave it to me.
So, okay, you were there, so you were saying that.
I was making a mention of him trying to, interfere in the military command. I was not interfering in the civilian command.
Sure.
It's not my job. And my job was the military command of the force.
Sure.
And all that was required from the SRSG, being the civilian head, was what is the implication, if any, of military deployments in the interiors of Sierra Leone, or if we did an operation somewhere, what is the implication, which he never gave me. Yes. He never did any assessment of any sort. So he was looking at these 3 brigadiers, chief of staff and the deputy and so on and so forth. What do you feel about it? So I didn't like this. Obviously, no commander would. So I told my deputy and the others, I said, you people, keep out of it. I will answer to this SRSG. And in case I falter and I need your help, I'll ask you. In other words, just let me talk it out of this. And then finally, I was an older person myself, I'm 80 now. I was 58 something, somewhere 55 sure. something then. I told the SRSG, I said, look, we are in it together. You and I. Why are we at, loggerheads with each other? We make a success of it, or we sink together. So you leave this to me. I have commanded a division. Yeah, of course. I didn't mean this. I just wanted to get another opinion. I was trying to be very tactful about it. But it was not a very good gesture on his part to sure. interfere. In retrospect, I thought perhaps he had been given orders by Nigeria.
Sure.
But this is speculation. To talk about military matters and so on and so forth, which was not within his purview to do so. So there were problems, but managed to get over them.
So the question that I want to ask, and I'll come to that very important, it's written right here, and I'll come to that very important point, sir. But before that, I want to know, since you have operated with troops,
yes.
I don't know if there were Jordanian troops. There was certainly a Jordanian brigadier.
Yes.
You would have Jordanian troops there, sir?
Yes.
And troops from Nigeria, troops from Ghana, troops from other countries, sir?
Yes.
I want to know, you've spoken about leadership, and you spoke about discipline, and you spoke about how soldiers are the same everywhere. It's the leadership that matters. I want to understand the will to fight.
Okay.
When push comes to shove, sir.
Okay.
When there is flak flying all around.
Yes.
And there is the sense of entropy. There is the sense of, what we know is the fog of war. So nothing is certain. Yes. Bullets are flying, and it's very confusing. The will to fight of a Nigerian soldier, the will to fight of a Jordanian soldier.
Right.
Their officers, because I'm sure they would have some sort of a command and control structure, sir. Their officers, like this Grenadier CEO, you're speaking about, say, 18 Grenadiers.
Yes.
Everything within 24 hours, sir, please welcome and come and visit and see. Yes. And this is what I've done, and I've sighted my weapons, and here is my bunker, and here are my maps, and here is my briefing, and tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Also, when the shooting starts, the essential will to fight of a soldier, that I want to fight because I am in this for the fight, because that is my duty.
Yes.
Did you sense that with the Nigerians, that will to fight?
Yeah, it was lacking to some extent. It was lacking to some extent. Again, I said leadership again. I'll explain that to you.
Sure.
But you must understand the type of troops people send there. We are spoiled by the Indian Army. When we send a battalion, it's a composite battalion. Yes. Now, my battalion, the one which I commanded, also went there to 9 Dogra. 7 Dogra has been there. A lot of Kumaon battalions and others have been there. But they are actual battalions which have trained together.
Yes, sir.
Same leadership, same section commander, platoon, company commanders, the CO, everybody knows everybody, right?
Yes, sir.
But the other nations, they send something which the UN calls a formed battalion. Now, what does that mean? It means you have to send 800 guys. So from your whole army, you pick 800 guys and send them. They never train together.
They don't know each other.
No, they don't know each other. They have no common drills. They are those section, platoon level, company level drills. They have never done it. Secondly, they have never even faced situations like this in their country. We have done so much of counterinsurgency. From the 50s, we are doing counterinsurgency.
Yes, sir.
And we have been fighting all these militants in our J&K and places like that.
Operation Pavan, Sri Lanka.
Pavan, so many of them. Siachen, you name it.
Sir.
We've got so much of wealth of experience that our troops are cut above the others.
Yes, sir.
But the others, because of these being formed battalions, that is the lacuna, that they have a drawback. At the same time, I did see a lack of wanting to get into a fight.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, there's a lack of that. Now, let me explain this further. There is a mandate given to you. the mandate given to us was under Chapter 6 of the UN Charter, which means pacific settlement of disputes by talking to a person, negotiating, not using force.
Sure.
But I also had windows of Chapter 7, which means using force, which means deadly force, including kill and be killed, in certain circumstances.
Sure.
But I overused that. And it has been pointed out by a team which came there, investigating team came there to find out what's gone wrong in Sierra Leone and all
Sure.
that. And they made a mention that for the first time in the history of UN, the force commander has overstepped his brief by actually going into and attacking these fellows.
Sure.
This is when Kenya got attacked, and I made a 3-pronged offensive. I didn't have the authority to do it, but I did it.
That's Khukri, sir?
Khukri was the bigger one after that.
After that, so,
After
okay. So
that.
we'll come to Khukri after this, sir.
Khukri was the bigger one. So here it was a 3-pronged offensive. I had a company to the north of the Kenyans are deployed at 2 places, Makeni and Makbraka. Makeni to the north, Makbraka to the south. So I had sent a company of the Kenyans out to the north. And I had my, quick reaction company of ours, a quick reaction company, which was based on APCs and, and TCBs.
Sure.
They were in Freetown. Both these were about 150 odd kilometers away from Makeni and Makbraka.
Sure.
But when Makeni and Makbraka got attacked, I ordered that company to come down from the north to Makeni, and I ordered the Indian company to go to Makbraka. Both of them came and strengthened these 2 places. And now the hammer was the Zambians who had come in a week earlier, and they got tricked into captivity. There were log bridges all over. There's only one road, so they were not even covered by fire. So they were pushed aside, and they had a convoy of about 60 vehicles, of which 30-40 of them were armed personal carriers. But they got stopped by a handful of rebels. Maybe 6 or 7 of them had the audacity to fire at a battalion using armored personnel carriers. You're firing small arms at the battalion, and the battalion halts because they didn't want to do anything. They didn't have any drills with them to clear ambushes and things like that. They didn't have anything with them.
They wouldn't know what to do, sir.
They wouldn't know what to do. So, what did the rebels do? The rebels said, please get your commander over. Now, it's the height of stupidity for any commander to come forward because the rebel says so.
Yes.
And here, not the platoon commander or company commander, here the battalion commander comes over. So some rebel says, our commander wants to meet you. So will you please come to negotiate? Now again, as a lieutenant colonel, he should have said, I don't want to meet your commander. If he wants to talk to me, come here. But he didn't do that. He got tricked into captivity. They took him away,
Sure.
along with about 19 people, of which 6 were officers. And they captured them, made them prisoners.
Sure.
They removed their weapons, they removed their uniforms, even their shoes and things like that. They stripped them. And then he made them write a note, send a note to the second in command. Tell them to send more people for negotiating. And all this was going on. And the force headquarters where I was sitting in Freetown, I was unaware of what was going on at that point in time. I was very happy that 2 of my prongs have gone in, and the third one is going to bash in and finish off these rebels. But then I got a message from the sector commander. There was a Kenyan sector commander who had also inducted a week back.
Sure.
Then he told me this is what has happened. I said, where is the CEO? So he's gone for negotiation. With whom? With the rebel commander. I said, why did he go? He says, I don't know. I said, why did you let him go? He had no answer. I said, now what? He said, sir, now we got a note from the CEO. I said, is it his handwriting? Yes, sir, it's in his handwriting. I said, is it genuine? He said, yes, sir, the note is genuine, but I think he has been captured by the rebels.
Coerced to write.
Yes, he was coerced to write over there. Under duress, he has been made to write. I said, okay, fine. So now what? I said, now you just break out from there. You tell the second in command to break out. Use force, deadly force, shoot at these fellows. This is my order. You got it in the operational order I sent you. And if you can't do this, then find a piece of tactical importance where you can defend yourself.
And hold it.
And hold it. Okay, until such time we do something. They did neither of the two. They kept vacillating. The second in command was doing things like, is it going to be cost effective for me and so on and so forth. I mean, this sort of nonsense you don't do when you're being fired at, In the meanwhile, the rebels were smart guys. They got all their reserves up and they came to every vehicle of the convoy with grenades in their hands. And now they threatened, we are going to throw grenades in your vehicles unless you give up your arms.
Sure.
These fellows gave up their arms. So without a shot being fired,
They
the
took everything.
Zambians were, about 500 odd Zambians were captured, and by evening we didn't know where they were. And these fellows now were, the rebels were now wearing Zambian uniform in Zambian vehicles and perplexing the situation even more. And then we got to know that they're going towards Liberia.
Sure.
And, one of the problems, and this is what happened. Of course, a lot of things happened in between. More troops had come in, Jordanian troops had come in, Indian troops had 18 grenadiers, the PVC battalion had come in,
Sure.
and a Bangladesh battalion had come in. So I had now a force. Earlier I had no force. I had one company as a force,
Sure.
as a reserve. Now I had some reserves with me. But I couldn't do anything there in a place called Calhoun, which is the far east where the Indians were surrounded.
Sure.
And they were surrounded for about 70 days. They were surrounded over there and I couldn't do anything. Why? Because 23 Indians, peacekeepers, who were on their way to join them at a place called Kailahun,
Sure.
were stuck over there. Now, with their leader called Fode Senko already in captivity, rebels wanted to get him out. So the only, bargaining chip in the hand was those 23 peacekeepers, Indian peacekeepers, and the companies which were surrounded by them.
Sure.
Now, I was very apprehensive. I said, if I did anything desperate right now, firstly, I didn't have resources. And if I did anything desperate right now, then they would be doing something like short sleeves, long sleeves, or sleeveless with my troops.
Sure.
Because they were all drugged up. They were on drugs. They were on liquor, drugs, and all sorts of things. And not exactly an army. But,
Ragtag militia, sir.
Ragtag, but with some sort of organization. But they could do all this under
Yes.
influence of drugs. They could do all this. I didn't want that to happen. So waiting for the negotiation. And in the meantime, Charles Taylor, who was the UN interlocutor, UN appointed interlocutor, he also sort of gave up. He didn't do anything about it. So now I was stuck. I didn't know what to do. So I was waiting for the troops to come in. And finally, eventually, when those 23, with negotiation, I got through on the satellite with the rebel leader. He says, please release our leader. And we released them. I said, look, they're in the prison. He's in prison. And the president of Sierra Leone is the only one who can do anything. I can't do anything about it, but I can put in a word for him. But you release my men. They have done nothing to you. He said, sir, I'll release them. So a week or 10 days later, he released them. They went to Liberia and came back to me. Now I was in a position to fight back. Now I had the troops and I decided I am going to do an Indian-only show. Operation Khukri I planned just with Indian troops. So
Which were the regiments involved in Khukri? The Grenadiers?
5 Gurkhas, 18 Grenadiers. And then I had a company from 2 Para.
Okay, sir.
I had some section from 9 Para, engineers, artillery, and all this. I had enough source with me.
Sure.
I had enough, but I could have done with more because the Calhoun, the place called Lungi, sorry, not Lungi. Let me recall. The battalion headquarters was occupied by 5/8 Gorkha.
Sure.
All right. If I moved 5/8 Gorkha from there, then I would have no base. So I needed someone over there. But still I decided I'm going to put engineers and others and I'll do that. So I made my plan. I was called by Secretary General Kofi Annan. You come to Lome. So I got an executive jet to fly to Lome. I went there. I went and met him. And he says, any problems, General? I said, yes, we have a problem. Many of my troops are without resources. 6 months have gone past. And I'm still told that weapons and other equipment, including digging tools and equipment and things like they were not there. Mosquito nets weren't there. People were getting malaria.
Basics, sir.
Yeah, basics. They were not there. They were not given. You sign an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, and don't give your troops anything and say you'll get it from somewhere or the other. You never did it. I didn't name any country as to who are the ones. But the army chief of Nigeria, he took an umbrage to that. He started shouting, no, what's on the high seas? And I said, I'll never talk to you about it. So Secretary General, being an international diplomat, he quietened things down. Later, he introduced me everywhere. This is Force Commander, UNC, this, that, and the other. So what's your plan? I said, Excellency, I need your green signal to do an operation. So I was expecting an army-like response. Yeah, go ahead. Well, he didn't do that. He says, well, the decision is yours, General. Now you could take it anyway.
Yes,
you could take it that you've taken the decision. So if you succeed, well, we'll say, yeah, great job done. But if you don't,
then nobody hold your hands.
Then we'll not hold your hand. So, but anyway, I said, fine, whichever way you look at it, Excellency, what is the plan? So I said, I want to use Indian troops only. Why? I said, sir, you've seen what's going on in Sierra Leone. We've had lots of instances where command and control was a problem. We had a lot of instances where people did not want to fight, didn't want to get into an active, a fight with the rebels. I have no faith if I use any of them that they will obey.
You said that to Kofi Annan?
I said that to him. He says, no, but don't look at it that way. But certainly you can enhance your force. I said, yes, I can. If you give me some more troops, he says, what troops do you need? I said, well, I have a Ghanaian battalion over there. If 2 companies of that can be made available to me for a diversionary thrust, and if you can give me 2 Nigerian companies, he says, done, you'll get it. So I played it very wisely because Mr. Kofi Annan was from Ghana. And my SRSG from Nigeria. So now these 2 heads of, these countries, there was no question of not getting these troops. So I did get them. When I came back from Lome, I went to the SRSG to say that I'm back and I'm going to do this operation. So I find a British colonel sitting there, a lieutenant colonel. Must have been a senior guy from the SAS or something like that. So I told the SRSG what he says. So wants to meet you. I said, yes, what is it about? He says, well, I've come to supervise the operation. I said, who are you? He says, no, I've been sent because you see our helicopters, Chinooks are being used. I said, yes. I said, there are a lot of resources from lots of countries being used. And you're not part of the UN. You're not part of UNAMSIL. So what are you doing here anyway? So he said, no, sir. No, sir. It was general. And, I've been called. There's a slight change in plan. I said, you're telling me about my plan? The plan is that we'll not lead with the attack helicopters, which India had sent me by then, but we'll lead with the Chinooks. Oh, I said, yeah, really? Who's told you to change the plan? You changed the plan? No, he said the force commander, Brigadier Mehta, who's no more now. Brigadier Mehta changed the plan. I said, I am the commander. He's the sector commander over there. I made this plan, and within 2 days of my being away, you've changed the plan? Why was this done? He says, once the attack helicopters go and the surprise will be lost, it will be very difficult to operate over there. I said, once the Chinooks go and the surprise will be lost again.
And who leads with the Chinooks? It's a heavy lift capability.
Exactly. So. All we're doing with that.
Like a flying duck, sir.
Yeah. All we're doing with the Chinooks is we are going to land some troops as pivots on the route of withdrawal.
That's it.
This thing. That was the aim of the Chinooks. But the aim of the British was to get their one man out from there.
Oh, that is why, sir.
That is why they gave me
all right, sir. Okay.
You see, all along when I was making the plan,
sir,
the UK High Commissioner kept on saying, hello, hi, General, how are you? And then, what's the plan? I was not giving my plan to anyone.
Sir.
We could have a whiskey in the evening. That's all right, but not the plan.
Sir.
So he says, look, I said, I know you want to get your one major out from there. He said, yeah, that also. I said, no, that also is that only.
That only.
So I can't give you the plan unless you tell me if you can give me some resources. This is what do you need? I said, well, I think Chinooks will be fine. You got Chinooks over here. You give me Chinooks and maybe your C-130 Hercules. He said, okay, I'll come back to you. So he went to London, got their approval. All right, fine. Then when I finally incorporated them in the plan, I decided, keeping in mind the weather, let the Chinooks lead. Why? Because they flew in bad weather and in darkness, which my helicopters could not.
Okay.
And even attack helicopter could not fly in. So I decided, all right, I'll accede to your acceptance. Tell me, are you taking part of the whole operation? He says, I'm afraid not, sir. I can't do it in the whole operation. I said, why? He said, because the helicopters need to be serviced. I said, listen, you're talking to Major General of the Indian Army. I'm a professional. Are you trying to tell me that you've been here for over a month and you didn't service your helicopters? They're good enough only for one mission, one sortie to Calhoun and back.
After that, they're due for servicing.
Yeah. After that, due for servicing. So I let it be at that. I said, forget it, my mind. As long as they help assist in letting my paratroopers get into the place where I wanted to place them.
Sure.
As long as okay, so fine. So we did this operation then. So very nice operation.
So, sir, this Chinook insertion was by 9 para, sir?
Yeah. No, second para.
Second para.
Second para.
Second para, and then 9 para came later.
9 para was part of the, that force which I had, a company strength.
Sir.
It was part of that, section strength of theirs was part of that quick reaction company.
The reason why I'm repeating 9 para is that they had a stellar role to play in Sri Lanka. So Operation Pawan, they were there in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, they were good. They're a very good battalion. I've served with them earlier, and I've served 2 para also. I served with 2 para earlier. Sure. In fact, one of my uncles took 2 para to Korea.
Achha, sir.
In the 50s, late 50s.
Sure,
and
sure.
when the Raksha Mantri came there, George Fernandez,
sure.
and he wanted to address Sainik Sammelan,
sir.
I made a mention to him, sir, this battalion served under my uncle. They are over here now.
Sure.
So he made a mention of it.
Sure.
But कितना अच्छा है कि uncle के साथ में भी थे अभी force commander के साथ उसी तरह काम करना है. All those bucking up that they do,
yes,
all that at the higher level. But they're very good. All these people. Our army is a professional army.
Sir.
We don't just send anybody. And I recall an incident when I was in an earlier mission in Iran. And I was the leader of our 14 officers. Most of them became army commanders and all afterwards. So I had a deputy from Italy who could hardly speak English, So when we went there and made presentations, and one chap, he made map, 1:50,000, one is the 250,000 arrows, this, that, and the other. And the leader, the official who came, Marak Golding, he was the head of the DPK, or Department of Peacekeeping Operation. He was flabbergasted. We need to come here.
Sure.
So they came here 3 days back. That's it. In 3 days, you got all this. You got all this. Anyway, that Italian asked me. He says, on a lighter note, he says, in broken English, Colonel, why are you here? I said, why am I here? What does that mean? He says, because, you people know everything. You do everything. That major does everything. You do everything. We had a chap from Command Regiment, Marwa, who became an army commander later on.
Sure.
So he says, you do everything. And he said, look at me. He says, I'm from Italy. I am no good for my army. And they send me to UN. I said, it's the other way around in India. We send only the best.
Yes.
Well-trained.
When we send the best.
We send the best. So he was quite, they were all impressed by India. Everybody wanted in.
You're very right, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Very right when you said that the Indian army spoils you.
Yeah.
And that is so true, sir. Yeah. I mean, they just spoil you in the sense that, you pass an order and then you turn back and you go and that it's done.
It'll be done.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
There is no bad news coming from there.
Absolutely.
But not so far other countries. Sir, Khukri, sir, finally. And this is going to be my last question, sir.
Right.
Tell us something about Khukri, sir. How did it pan out and what happened?
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, I had no resources to start with. And also, I was constrained by the fact that, I had 23 of my peacekeepers separately kept over there.
Sure.
And initially, they had tricked the 2 company commanders and the military observers into captivity by guile, by telling them that, look, we want to discuss ways and means when we can surrender our weapons. We want to join the DDR program, etc., etc. So
sure.
Our 2 company commanders took it at face value, and they went out there and they got captured. And they were taken away to a place called Gaima, far away. And now it was just that the 2 companies are without the company commanders, but our training is good. So the captains over there, the second in command, they did a fantastic job, and they took charge. Now, while we were there, again, Indian Army training, winning the hearts and the minds of the people. My first visit to that place, Calhoun, when I landed there 2 days after my company had gone there, I said, get all the people over here. There are rebels also, call them. Call everybody over. We are here to, it's a peacekeeping mission. I'm not coming here for eliminating anybody. Call them. Call the old people, call the bad hats, call everybody. So we called everybody over. And I said, tell me what are your problems. They said, we don't have water. We drink muddy water. So I called my engineer officer. I said, there's a water point here. You've done a recce? He says, yes, I've done a recce. Will you do something about it? He said, sir, give me 2 days. I said, I'll give you 3. You commission it. He says, done. And repair the road. Right. So we don't have food to eat. So I called the battalion commander. He says, the food is meant for only our troops. I said, you have sufficient? Give it to them. We don't have medicine. So I called the doctor. The doctor said, sir, you want medicine, but this medicine is a short supply. We got them all the way from India. We can only use it for our troops. I said, you give them what you want. I said it with the confidence. I had just finished command of 11 Division, Ahmedabad. And those Gujarati troops are fantastic. People are so nice. I knew that I just had to make one satellite call to Ahmedabad and tell them, load up a plane load of medicine. This is what I want. They would send it. You know. So I said, you give it also. Now, this had never been done before in Calahon, in Sierra Leone.
Sure.
But somebody giving them water, somebody giving them food, somebody's giving them medicine. They're doing everything.
Sure.
So they were, as it is, flabbergasted.
Sure.
And then when they saw the resoluteness of the Indian troops, they knew that this is one force we cannot take lightly. We are not going to attack them. So it was, there was a peace, sort of unwritten. You don't do anything to me, I won't do anything to you. But I had another problem other than those 23 people. The other problem was my 2 companies were spread on 2 different locations. They were not together. Now, this is tactically unsound. But we didn't go for a tactical operation. We went there for something else, peacekeeping.
Yes, sir.
So the whole idea was to get them together. So we passed orders. Everything was on satellite phone. Everything was on Hindi so that nobody picks up what we are saying. And I used to be speaking to that company commander every day, bucking them up and talking to them. There was no sector commander in that time and telling the CO. So finally we managed to get the companies together. Finally we got everything. Now I had the resources. Then I made a plan. So I decided that I will do this operation in 5 parts. First part was to get all the resources together. Some were in Freetown, some were halfway in between, somewhere in in the battalion headquarters itself, to assemble them all together.
Sure.
There the British C-130 Hercules and Indian Air Force, they came in very handy. And plus we moved vehicles of ammunition and so on, Bowsers and you name it, everything. We moved all that to our base, where the battalion was located. And we got the troops together. I got the Ghanaian to undertake a diversionary operation so that other rebels from, in the deeper part of Sierra Leone, they don't interfere with the operation.
Sure.
So it was a good move because they did try to do that and we managed to fend them off. And I got the Nigerians and the engineers to come and occupy a firm base.
So the Ghanaians go on a separate axis, sir?
On a separate axis. On the side, yeah.
And that is a diversionary
That's a diversionary thing. So that the people who are deployed somewhere en route, they don't get there and other reserves of theirs don't move.
They're busy with these guys, sir.
Yeah. And this
hopefully.
is
And then you have your other people here, sir, the Nigerians and
yes.
etc.
So Nigerians and our engineers do a ground holding role also.
Sure.
They're trained for it.
Absolutely.
So they plus our rest of transport platoon, medical and this, that, we grouped them together and they held the firm base.
Sure.
Artillery guns were deployed. We hardly had anything. So they had to do a lot of leapfrogging forward and so on and so forth.
So, sir.
But the attack helicopters were told that you are going to also make sure that nothing comes from the flank and you're going to give the protection to the force which is going. So what is the plan? The plan was that I would go in with attack helicopters, but which I changed later to Chinooks.
Sure.
And the Chinooks would go into Calahun, pick up the sick and wounded and that major, who was the
British major,
unarmed British major, and other unarmed military observers, and the sick and wounded. And if any warlike store you can pick up. Otherwise, the order was given that if you can't load up things like that, just destroy them. Things like mattresses and this, that, and the other, destroy them. They're not required. They were to fly back. And I said, we'll make an airhead at Calahun, fly everybody back. But if we have a resistance from those people, then you make a breakout from there. Simultaneously, the second prong. So now there are 3 prongs. One is the diversionary prong.
Yes, sir.
One prong coming back from Calahun, which is where we fought the operation. Calahun is in the easternmost part where the 2 companies of ours were surrounded.
Sure.
They had to come downwards. And from the battalion headquarters, we were going up to rescue these people. So we were supposed to meet halfway at a place called Pendembu, which was the brigade headquarters of the rebels.
Sure.
So I had 2 battalions going up. One battalion was leading. The other battalion, it was supposed to provide a firm base and make stops all the way. And the other battalion was supposed to attack the brigade headquarters, which is what we did.
Sure.
We did that. We inserted pivots by air. We inserted pivots by ground forces. As the battalion progressed, it kept on giving pivots and so on and so forth.
Sure.
But we could not make great progress because the rebels didn't give up. They chased us. And they had good communication. So they had passed messages to people in front. So they dug up the only road and made it difficult for our vehicles to move. So I got this message sitting there at the battalion headquarters.
Sure.
But this is what has happened. So I asked the sector commander, what should we do? And both of us decided that I think we should drop some flexible duck boards and bridging material there. So we got out of the helicopter, said, go and drop this there. So he went and dropped it there, and luckily we had some engineers with them. They built a bridge over which the vehicle moved. So one vehicle was not moving. It had lots of stores in it. So the CO gave an order, destroy the vehicle, destroy the stores. So they made one last effort. It also was almost uncanny, almost as the vehicle found out I'm getting destroyed. It started. It started and it came over the bridge. Sure. And now we are fighting a battle of, earlier it was rainy, earlier it was bad weather, now it was sunny, it was everybody was parched. Now we're looking for water. So the next sortie was dropping water for them.
Sure.
And that sortie saw another place where they dug up. So again, bridging equipment and this, that and the other. So by evening, that evening on the first day, the 2 prongs, that is the one moving from the battalion headquarters upwards and the one moving downwards from the company headquarters, Calhoun, they met at Pendembu. And during the night, we were in Pendembu. We defended ourselves. They tried to, fire at us and so on and so forth. Many civilians wanted to come in. We didn't allow. We made an airhead. Next day, we did a beautiful operation, evacuating people from there. Less the column, which is a vehicle column.
Sure.
So the vehicle column was asked to withdraw back. Then they kept on sniping at us en route and firing at us. And finally, eventually at a place which had just been passed by the leading battalion, it's easy. The weather, the terrain is so bad, you can hide anywhere.
Yes, sir.
So they fired a RPG rocket at one of our vehicles, an ammunition carrying vehicle. Luckily, it didn't hit the ammunition, but it hit the driver. His entrails came out.
Oh.
And hit, the GSO sitting next to him. And then suddenly we heard this is what has happened. And luckily, there was a helicopter flying on top. We had a television team from India. At that time, we were looking for what we are looking for even now. That is a permanent seat in the Security Council.
Yes, sir.
So we were trying to make a case for it as to where all we are and what are we doing. So there was a television team there. That team was told to dismount. We loaded the casualty, took him to the surgical, setup that we had made in field ambulance. And he had a cardiac arrest. He revived. He had a second cardiac arrest. Again revived. Again, the doctor did a great job. And 6 hours operation. He came out all right. But then he had lost so much of blood. He died after that. He was the only casualty we had, death. Sure. Otherwise, we had 6 wounded. But by evening, the operation was sort of over. Sure. It was over in 2 days' time, which I wanted to do in one day's time.
Sure.
It was 1,800 people taking part, and almost equal number of rebels if you took their reserves into account. It was the major operation. We had used 3-4 types of helicopters. We had the reconnaissance helicopter, the Cheetahs or Alouettes.
Yes, sir.
We had Mi-8s for troop carrying. We had Chinooks.
Sir.
We had C-130 Hercules, the fixed-wing aircraft.
Yes, sir.
We also had a Russian big helicopter but they didn't take part finally. We had mech infantry, we had paratroopers, we had special forces, we had everything.
Yes, sir.
So we had all the, all the resources to make it a success, and we did. So we got a lot of
engineers.
And engineers, of course.
Yes,
and engineers, they did a great job. They made those bridges. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for us to, come across. So all these have been described in detail in my book. But the point is, essentially, my book is, which we're going to talk about, or you're going to, it covers not only just Operation Khukri, but it covers all the influences that affect peacekeeping mission, regional influences internationally, what people do and why they do it, what do they say and what do they do.
Sir.
One of the very disappointing things was that while we got a lot of unwanted advice from the Western world,
Sir.
we got no troops from them.
Sir.
Like the British who came there to evacuate their nationals, 800 odd nationals, and stayed for 1 month over there, didn't take part in any operation. And yet they take credit for, we did a great job over there. I said, yeah, fantastic, you've done a great job. You flew over there, you did everything, you flew your helicopters there, and you came there and you evacuated your nationals. From that extent, yeah, you did an operation, Dunkirk-like operation over here, moving people out. But in actual fact, what did you do?
Sir.
You're members of the Security Council. You're the permanent members, one of the big 5.
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you take part? Why didn't the Americans or the other Western nations take part? None of them took part, but they could be sitting there and criticizing you. This is not good, or that is not good, or this is what you should have done. I can also talk about it. You should have done this and you should have done that. The point is that when it comes to the crunch, you should be doing something, not just talking about it. You should be, you're not giving me advice. You give me what. I'd gone to New York. After that, I was called there to brief the Secretary General and the UN Security Council, which I did.
Sure.
I was called by the the ambassador of America.
Sure.
For a breakfast, and then he wanted to talk about Nigeria. What do you think about Nigerians? What do you think about Nigerians? He now asked about anybody else. And I said, the good troops, yeah, but not well led, and they don't have the equipment. So what do you say, General? Can I help you in any way? I said, yes, you can. Can you give me a brigade, fully equipped brigade of troops who got all the resources, good leadership, all the weaponry? He says, I'm afraid that's not in my pay scale. So I kept quiet because I knew that he's not going to do it, because ever since, American troops took part in Mogadishu,
Yes, sir.
They shot a helicopter. There's the Black Hawk.
Black Hawk Down. There's the famous
Black
movie
Hawk
about
Down,
it. Sir.
the movie. And they pulled out those 2 pilots who were dead.
Sir.
They tied ropes to their ankles and they dragged them all over the capital. After that, the Americans, of course, they didn't say it officially. They have never sent troops. They decided we're not going to send troops there. We'll give you the money. You cattle fodder, go and do the job, but we'll give you the money. They never did. He never gave me this thing.
Sure.
Then I met with the British, ambassador. He wanted to meet me before I went to Security Council. Why don't you ask for Chapter 7? Why don't you ask for Chapter 7? I said, I don't need it. I got windows of Chapter 7. He said, no, but if you just made it all Chapter 7, what do you feel? I said, I don't think it's a good idea. Everybody came under Chapter 6, where we're supposed to do negotiations, not fight.
Sir.
No, but I know that you've done all the operations, the one at Rockbury and Operation Khukri and all that. You did basically because you had Indian troops with you. I said, yes. And the other troops didn't didn't do what they're supposed to do. I said, yes. He says, so why not you ask for Chapter 7? I said, I don't think I'll do that because the nations will pull out. So what about India? I said, I don't know. I just happen to be an Indian. I don't know what my country does. He said, but unofficially, I said, we'll pull out also. Why would we be here all the time and taking the brunt of the whole thing? So can we go now to Security Council? So we went off to Security Council. I said, we need to enhance the force. We did after that. And like I told you, that from 6,000, it became 11 during my time. Then it became 13. Then it began, and then after I briefed to the Security Council, they made it 17, and then they made it 20,000. It's a very large force, which is really not required.
2 divisions?
Yeah, it is really not required. That much force was not really required. But anyway.
Sir. Thank you very much for talking to us, sir.
Yeah, it
was indeed a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. This book, The Unforgettable Saga of Sierra Leone. And this is written by Lieutenant General Vijay Jetley PVSM, UYSM. The link is there in the description. Click on the link. Buy this book. Thank you very much for joining us for this lovely discussion with General Jetley. I'm going to catch you again next week with another special guest. Till then, Jai Hind. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.